Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a busy week here on the Chaseontwowheels YouTube channel. So, if you guys aren't familiar, we just spent the last 5 days publishing the comparison stats video on all the scramblers, and then right behind it, we posted 4 back-to-back first rides of the Scrambler 62, the Scrambler Cafe Racer, the Scrambler Desert Sled, and the Scrambler 1100 Pro, even though I kept calling it the Sport. It has been a crazy week, and that has all brought us to this culmination of this video of there's a lot of Ducati Scramblers. Which one is right for you? Ducati has a whole fleet of the damn things. So in this video, my goal is to briefly go over what we learned from all the first rides in those videos, and then I'm going to give you guys an overview of who I see buying each of those motorcycles. This video right here is going to save you guys 2 hours of time. If you guys wanted to go and rewatch all the first rides that are about 30 minutes long, this video is hopefully not going to be 30 minutes long, and you guys should have a very well understanding of, okay, there's these 4 motorcycles. I really like the Scramblers. I want to get one. Which one should I get? This is the video you need to watch. All right. Before we get into it, it would be massively appreciated if you guys could like this video. It is so much work to be able to put 6 videos out in 1 week. It is unheard of. We don't do it much here because our videos have a lot of production quality. It takes a lot of time to make those videos. So if you guys could do us a favor and drop us a like, it will help us keep pushing to get you guys more of these comparison style videos. And Chase will continue to stress the hell out. I'm just kidding. It's been a fun week. It's just been super busy. So drop us a like and subscribe for more of this type of content. Now, before we get going, in order to pay all the gas money that camera car cost for 4 first rides, we got to do a little sponsorship. So let's talk about Simply Safe real quick, and then we are going to get into this information. But don't worry, for you guys that just have no use for home security, even though I highly recommend it, you can jump to that timestamp. That'll skip you straight past the ad. But you guys that watch through the ads, thank you guys so much. It keeps this channel running, fam. All right, ad info, let's go. Simply Safe is an incredibly effective, reliable home security system that will make sure your home is safe. You just order it online or over the phone, it's delivered right to your home, and you set it up yourself in under an hour. You just stick sensors exactly where you need them. From there, your home is professionally monitored 24/7. If anything happens, they'll make sure the police get called. They've got sensors that cover every window, room, and door, plus lots of great extras like water sensors, temperature sensors, and HD cameras. It's all really simple to use, and you get around-the-clock protection for just 50 cents a day with no contracts. They've even won the US News and World Report's Best Overall Home Security for 2020. So I know this is like an ad read and all, but my wife and I actually do use Simply Safe, and we really do love the product. Before we had them, we used some other company that shall not be named. Basically, long story short, they conned us using their bullcrap contracts, and we ended up having to pay for security on a house for 6 months after we had already moved out. So Simply Safe's no contract approach is probably one of my favorite parts of the entire company. Something else I love about them is the setup process. Especially in the times we're in right now, being able to have the gear just sent to me, I set it up, which is basically just sticking it on wherever I want on the walls, and I'm good to go, is really nice. It's actually kind of fun figuring out where you want the different sensors. For our place, we have a lot of typical sensors that most of you guys are going to be using. Our base station is chilling behind our TV in the living room. For the entire rooms, we have motion sensors. Near the windows, we have glass break sensors. And on that note, I am super thankful for this little guy. Let me show you. So as a lot of you guys know, my wife and I just moved houses, and we just almost got done finishing this garage. But when we were building the garage, one day I came out here and the entire floor was flooded because it rained a lot the last night or something like that. Now luckily we got the roof fixed, thank God. But from now on, let me show you this little sensor. You guys see that boy in the back? So that little guy is a water sensor. So now if, God forbid, if the roof, who has been fixed, ever breaks again and there gets water in here, I'll know about it thanks to that sensor. The other sensor that I have here in the garage is the carbon monoxide sensor, since, you know, we deal with motorcycles and stuff like that, and their engines, and they cause carbon monoxide, right? I don't want to die from carbon monoxide is the point, so I have a sensor here in the garage that stops that. So if you guys are in the market for a new updated home security system, check out SimpliSafe with my link, which is simplisafe.com/chase. That's simplisafe.com/CHASE. Thank you, SimpliSafe, for sponsoring this video, and thank you for any of you guys that check out that link. You guys that support the companies, that support my channel, really does make a huge difference. All right, thank you, either person that skipped the ad or you're just watching this video. So we're gonna break this video into little segments. I'm gonna give you the timestamps for all the segments, so that way if you're curious of how I feel about the dashes or how I feel about the power delivery, you can jump to the specific one, or I'll give you a tag for the final thoughts at the very end of the video. So here's how this video is gonna get broken down. We're gonna be talking about the dash, looks, engine, ergos, fun factor, cost-effective, agility, transmission, weight, controls. Then obviously at the very end of it, we're going to be talking about which bike is best for you. So let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen, starting with the dashes. So when it comes to dashes, guys, all of them are gonna look like they kind of spawned from that 400 dash, that little circular situation. Now, there is a significant difference in quality when you jump from the 400 to the 800s. By the way, for the rest of this video, I'm gonna refer to the Cafe Racer and the Desert Sled as the 800s because they share a lot of similarities. But if I need to talk about something specific about both bikes, I'll talk about them individually. But when you make that jump from the 400s to the 800s, there is going to be a significant quality difference on the screen. You're going to have settings that you can go into. You can change rider modes and stuff like that. I'm not a huge fan of the dash on the 400. I understand Ducati's got to like save some money somewhere. Unfortunately, they did it in the dash here. So when it comes to dashes, I like the 800s and I love the 1100 dash, that little pill addition to the circle. It actually kind of looks cool, and it's just a cool shape that you don't see on a lot of dashes. It gives it a cool, like, unique vibe. It's not that traditional dash crap that you see on most motorcycles. All right, guys, let's move on to looks. Now, you guys know, looks are super freaking subjective, but I'm gonna give you my opinions on this anyway. You guys can let me know what you think, which one looks the best in the comments down below if you want to. But in my personal opinion, that Cafe Racer is the hottest thing in this group. I don't know if it's the look of it or if this just this love affair I have with Cafe Racers, or the love affair I think I have with Cafe Racers, but I think the lines on that bike from a 360-degree view look the best in the class. Now, it is followed closely by that Desert Sled. You guys know, in my heart of hearts, when I see a bike with a red trellis frame with white and black accents, I fall for it. So the Desert Sled is not far behind. I do want to say a big asterisk in the looks department. They have an 1100 Sport Pro that's all matte blacked out with black finishes, and it looks the best of all of them. Unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to include that in this video, but I'll show you guys what it looks like right here. To me, in person, that looks the sickest. Moving back to what we're talking about, the Cafe Racer, I personally think takes the cake on that. The 1100 and the 400 kind of have that similar Scrambler look, which is cool, but we're talking about different levels when we go to that Desert Sled and the Cafe Racer. All right, so let's talk about engine. All right, so the engine is a really cool thing to talk about in this comparison specifically because they all are the same engine. They're just Mario'd and they get bigger. The 400, the 800, and the 1100, all the same type engine. Now, when it comes to how those engines are delivering power, we'll start from the bottom. With the 400, I was actually surprised at how much power that bike gave me. You know, it's in a competing class. It's got like very good motorcycles that it's coming up against, and granted it cost a lot more than those, but I felt really solid about the 400. I could see an experienced person getting on that motorcycle and having a good time. I could also see an inexperienced person getting on that motorcycle and having years of fun ahead of them on that motorcycle. Now, when it comes to the 800s, I feel like this is where the engine balances out with the frame the best. The 800s, just the way the power was put on, both in the Cafe Racer and the Desert Sled, Both of them delivered the power in a way that I felt fit the motorcycle the best. I'm not sure what made it fit, whether it was, the weight, overall weight of the motorcycle or what, but I feel like the 800 is that sweet spot where the bikes aren't too hard to maneuver and they give an adequate amount of engine to go with that weight. If you're in the silly class, and I'm in the silly class, the 1100 was my personal favorite. So there is something intoxicating about a heavy motorcycle with gobs more engine and power than you should ever be allowed to have on the road. I love the hell out of my Yamaha MT-10. The 1100 Scrambler gave me that feeling of that Yamaha MT-10 feeling of like when you twist the throttle, it's like, hold on, you're gonna get excited in your jiggly bits right now, right? The 1100 put that power down far smoother than my MT-10 does. It was shocking how much confidence I had just after riding that bike for like a little while. Full throttle open, and I was not worried at all. So for you more experienced guys, yes, the 800s feel more balanced. If you want pure excitement with that much power under you, you have to go the 1100. If you guys can't tell, I'm going to get some seat time on that 1100 Sport Pro as fast as I possibly can because the looks plus that manageable power delivery, bruh, it's going to be a killer motorcycle probably, unless they messed something up. Hopefully they didn't, but that's engines. All right, guys, next up, let's talk about the Ergos. If you guys don't know Ergos, that's ergonomics. That's how you're sitting on the motorcycle. Are your legs crunched up? Are your arms, are they up high? Are they down low? Are you bent over? With this class, we've basically got two options when it comes to ergos. We've got the Desert Sled, the 62, and the 1100, all with an upright body position, right? You're super comfortable. Your arms are relaxed. Your legs are not tucked in very tight. And then we have the Cafe Racer, totally different than all the other boys. You're way leaned over. Your legs are crunched up a little bit. Your body is leaned forward and your arms are going to be, facing downward onto the clip-ons. That's going to make riding position, difficult. That's when you actually do have to use your legs to hold on to the tank because, you shouldn't be putting your weight on your handlebars. That's how you ride correctly if you don't know. I am in a position right now as a rider. I've spent years riding a super sport. I have a bad back by default. Riding super sports are not the most comfortable thing for me, but they're really fun to ride around for a couple hours, which is what I do on these first rides. If I'm zooming back and I'm keeping in mind what I'm telling you guys, because you guys are probably watching this video, one, you might be just curious about scramblers, but a lot of you guys might actually be asking what bike is right for me. And while the Cafe Racer is really fun to ride around for a few hours, I do see if you are a person similar to me and you do have to have a more comfortable motorcycle ergo, it's not the bike for you. Regardless of how cool it is, regardless of how good it sounds, regardless of the body position that you want to have while you're riding, if you need comfort while you're riding, you really are going to be needing to look at the 62, the 1100, or the Desert Sled. That upright body position, comfortable arms. It's also going to be far more maneuverable because you have this handlebar situation. You can just wiggle this thing around. And even with the weight of the 1100 and the Desert Sled, those bikes are still going to be far easier to maneuver through traffic or a parking lot or slow speed situations, far easier than the Cafe Racer. So, I love the look of the Cafe Racer. I had a phenomenal time riding the Cafe Racer, but I just, I'm zooming out and I don't think I would buy that as for me personally, because of for my back, I don't want to buy a motorcycle that I can only stand to ride a few hours on, right? I want to buy a motorcycle that I can buy and then enjoy the hell out of it to its max. And I don't think I would be able to do that with the Cafe Racer. So that's Ergos. I prefer the upright body position. If you want the Ergos of the Cafe Racer, just be ready for it. Those looks come with a downside. Trust me. All right, guys, let's talk about fun factor, something that's pretty freaking important when it comes to motorcycles. If I'm going to be honest, I already told you guys earlier, I had the most fun on the 1100. I am one of those guys in the silly club that loves having too much power in an upright body position. Those are two just combination of things that I cannot get enough of. So I had the most fun on the 1100. It started getting a little like, oh my gosh, I have so much power. Right behind that though, talking more realistic, I think I had the most fun on the Cafe Racer right after that. One of the reasons for that is because I love the look of the Cafe Racer, and when I'm on that, it's such a weird body position. You know you're in that Cafe Racer body position. It's just fun to ride around and be like, man, I bet I look cool right now. I know that's super vain and all that kind of shit, but that Cafe Racer will give you that. It gives you that leaned over body position, and you get off your bike and you look back at it and you're like, damn, that's a cool looking bike, dude. Cafe Racer number 2, 1100 Pro if you need too much power. That's my recommendation. Side note, this is coming from somebody that did no off-roading at all, and if I was going to off-road at all, the 1100 Pro would still be up there, but I would bump that desert sled up because then you get more stuff you can do on the motorcycle. If I had some like light dirt roads around me, I might go for the desert sled, honestly. All right, guys, let's talk about a funny category for Ducatis, and that's cost effectiveness. Off the bat, none of these motorcycles are cost effective. It's a Ducati. You're going to pay the Ducati tax, which is you're going to pay more literally because it's a Ducati. You're probably going to have more expensive service intervals. So cost effective is just a stupid thing to talk about. But I do want to touch on something. All of these motorcycles are great motorcycles, but we are in a time right now, a beautiful time of motorcycling where naked bikes are amazing and cheap, both in insurance and in buying the motorcycles. The competition is stacked. The cheapest motorcycle in this group, the 400cc Ducati Scrambler 62, is a 400cc bike that cost $8 grand. Now, if we're talking $8 grand, what else is in that category? You can get a Z400 from Kawasaki for $5,000. That's $3,000 less. Okay, so from Honda, we can get a CB500F for $61,999. $8 grand is pushing it for a 400cc motorcycle. You have to be a dedicated Ducati fan. That's not only on the smaller model. If we move up, the Cafe Racer and the Desert Sled are both going for $12,000. The 1100 Pro is going for like $15,000 or $16,000. For $12,000, I can get a brand new MT10. Am I going to go with an MT10 or am I going to go with a Cafe Racer? You know what I mean? Like, cost effective is one of the areas here that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Now, if you are a Ducati fan or if you just love the Scramblers from Ducati, then whatever. The cost is just one of the negatives that you're going to have to throw out the window. When you guys are looking at these motorcycles for what to purchase, consider what's out there. Now, the Cafe Racer is a little different because it's not a naked motorcycle, really. It's a new age Cafe Racer. Keep that kind of stuff in mind. There is good competition, and for us riders, that is the best situation we can have. When these motorcycle companies have to keep doing better and better stuff and offering it at cheaper and cheaper prices, we all get to be over here and be like, what? Next. Sorry, Ducati, you're never going to win that game. All right, guys, so next up, let's talk about agility. We kind of touched on this a minute ago, but all the 3 models with the handlebars are going to have a much more maneuverable feel than something like the Cafe Racer. Naturally, when we're putting weight on the handlebars, like you have to do with the body position on that Cafe Racer, you are going to have weight on it, even though you probably shouldn't, and it is going to make it harder to move back and forth. When you're going at a higher rate of speed, that doesn't matter because you're not going to make really quick decisions, But I do feel like if you guys ride the Cafe Racer around, you're going to feel like it is a little more sluggish than the Desert Sled, the 62, and the 1100. If you're looking for that really quick maneuverability, you need to grab one of the 3 with handlebars. If you don't care really much about maneuverability, then look into the Cafe Racer. Alrighty, so next up, let's talk about transmissions. All of the transmissions on the bikes felt really good, except for the 62. You guys know, when we're talking about the lower CC bikes, these companies got to cut costs somewhere. Now, I don't know if the transmission is different in the 62 than it is in the Desert Sled, Cafe Racer, or 1100 Pro, but the 62, I felt it was a little clunky. If I wanted to shift down, I had to boot stomp that thing to go down. If I wanted to shift up, I had to use some gusto, because if I didn't, it wasn't going to shift. Now, the rest of the motorcycles in this class, when I shifted, it felt great. I got a satisfying click on all of the models. So, like I said, I don't know if they did some cost cutting there, but I love the transmission in the 800 and the 1100s. It is what it is. From what I heard, a lot of Ducatis are like that, so maybe it's a Ducati thing. I don't know. So yeah, 400 transmission, meh. The rest of them, super good. All right, so let's talk about weight. And this is a pretty interesting department because the heaviest one in the class is not the one with the biggest engine. This is the main negative for the Desert Sled. If I'm gonna be honest with you guys, if we're looking at a motorcycle that we're gonna ride mostly on-road with a little bit of off-road, I feel like that bike is too heavy. It's too heavy to ride off-road and really get a good experience out of it, because if you go down, and I don't know if you guys have ridden off-road, but when I've taken my Supermoto off-road, those are the most times I've gone down, just because you're dealing with totally different environments. There's going to be dirt, sand, gravel, rocks, all types of stuff that you're going to have to deal with. So inevitably, the bike's probably going to fall over. You got 460 pounds to pick up, my guy. It ain't light. So that's going to be a hindrance. Like, that's the main, honestly, it's the main negative for the Desert Sled. Now, the 1100 Pro is only like 6 pounds heavier than the Desert Sled, but I felt that weight felt totally fine for that engine style and that motorcycle, that ergo. Everything felt good, even though it weighed the same as the Desert Sled. The Desert Sled was honestly the only bike that just felt off weight-wise. You know, it has that taller seat height in order to give it more ground clearance, and it has that higher weight, so that bike was really the only one that when you tipped it over, you started feeling like, oh snap, I better not go too far, because if that bike goes too far, if it starts angling too much, bro, you might as well just give up at some point. Be like, all right, I'm going to just let this thing fall and I'm going to pick it up afterwards. Now, the weight on the Cafe Racer felt super balanced. It felt exactly like it should. It wasn't too heavy moving side to side. It had the lower seat height, so I was able to control the weight really well. The weight probably felt best with the, shocker, the 62. It was the lightest one, but the mixture of the handlebars and the lightweight gave it a real flicky feel, which is good. It needs to have that flicky feel if it's going to have that lower CC model. The 400cc was obviously the best, but it's honestly like the Desert Sled's the only one that kind of didn't do great in the weight department. All right, so final thing, let's talk about the controls. And again, this is one of those situations where we're going to talk about all the bikes felt good except for this one, because, again, cost cutting has to happen. For Ducati to have to offer $12,000 for one motorcycle and $8,000 for another, engines don't change in value that much. So there's going to be a lot of other things that go into that cost cutting. One of the things that you can very easily tell on the Ducati Scrambler 62 is that the controls are nowhere near the quality level that you get on the Cafe Racer, the Desert Sled, and the 1100 Pro. Now, the quality jump between the 1100 Pro and the 800, I would say, is negligible. You can't really tell they're that much different, but the jump between the 400 and the 800s is huge. I don't know why, but I put a lot of value in controls on motorcycles. So when I see cheaper controls, I'm like, man, that stinks. I'm not really here for that. I get it. I totally understand they can't use the highest quality stuff for the lowest CC motorcycle. You can't do that. Nobody does that. So I get it. But as a rider who values what their controls feel like, think about it. When you ride your motorcycle, you're interacting with those controls constantly. So it would be nice to have some really good controls. Regardless, I loved all the controls on the 1100 and the 800s. The 400s just left me feeling like, man, I would really love to take the controls from an 800 and remap them to a 400. So they're not bad, they work, but they just don't have that good tactile feel that the 800s and the 1100 had. All right, guys, we made it through it. Now, to finish this video up, who is the right rider for each of the motorcycles? Let's start out with the bottom and move our way up. we've got the Ducati Scrambler 62. Is it expensive for its class? Yes. But the way the power is delivered on that motorcycle, mixed with the ergos, mixed with the handlebars, I think it's a solid motorcycle for somebody looking to start riding. Also, if you are a more experienced rider and you're looking for a motorcycle to ride mostly around town and do small stuff like that, the 62 is a phenomenal motorcycle. I was honestly shocked at how well that motorcycle felt. Those are the two people that I feel like would really benefit the most from the 62. Next up, let's talk about the Cafe Racer. Now, the Cafe Racer is got to be somebody with my vein of loving the look of that Cafe Racer. You love, you look on Instagram and you see these really cool old school Cafe Racers and you're like, bro, I love the look of that. The Ducati Scrambler Cafe Racer is going to give you that look, but give you all of the modern day amenities like ABS and traction control. It's even got Ducati cornering ABS on it. You're going to have all of this stuff in a modern motorcycle, but have that classic look. I feel like that's who needs that motorcycle. I would not recommend a brand new rider to the Cafe Racer. If you love the Cafe Racer, start on the 400, work your way up, get a feel for how that engine responds, and then start saving up, get your Cafe Racer next. That would be a phenomenal transition of motorcycles. Next up, let's talk about the Desert Sled. Now, if I'm going to be honest with you guys, I know everything I've said in this video, but the Desert Sled honestly is the closest one of these Ducatis that I would be to actually purchasing one. If I did not own a 2008 WR250X, I would be very interested in the Ducati Desert Sled. I love the idea of your second motorcycle being the bike that you can do lots of multi-purpose stuff on. And that's what I love about my WR. If I want to go off-roading, that's the bike to go on. If I want to, having a motorcycle that you can ride around and not really have to care about is a phenomenal feeling. But with having a WR250X, the engine is nowhere near, enough, really. But on the Desert Sled, it is. So suddenly it opens you up to having this motorcycle that you can take anywhere you want, relatively. You can relatively take it anywhere you want. But the Desert Sled, for me, is that ideal motorcycle as your second bike for a more experienced rider. A more experienced rider that's going to be doing all types of riding, including off-road. It has to include off-road. The Desert Sled could be your only motorcycle. If I would be looking at it, God forbid, if I didn't have my WR250, I'd be looking at the Desert Sled as my do-all motorcycle. And to finish the game off, ladies and gentlemen, we have the Ducati Scrambler 1100 Pro. Now, my boys and girls in the Silly Club, you guys know, this is the one. It has a more manageable power delivery than the MT10. No lie. The highest mode in the 1100 Pro is smoother than the MT10 in mode 2. The power delivery for the everyday riding in that motorcycle is phenomenal. The amount of power that you have, that it can propel you forward in that body position, is phenomenal. If I owned no motorcycle and you told me, Chase, you can only own one of these 4 Ducatis, which one would you own? I would not have to think about it very long. I want that 1100 Pro. The feeling you get from riding a motorcycle like that is indescribable. And that is the only bike for me that gives me that feeling. Now, that comes from somebody who has ridden a lot of motorcycles and has a very specific riding style. The way I ride, the 1100 Pro is the bike. I love the way that power is. I love being able to be comfortable while I'm riding, and I love getting that excited while riding a bike with that kind of power and that upright and that comfortable. So I love that motorcycle, but I'm an experienced rider. I've already done all of my super sport highway stupid stuff days. I'm past that. Luckily, I lived through it, and now I get to enjoy riding and just occasionally do the stupid stuff. But that's what those bikes are perfect for. So if you're a really experienced rider, you know exactly what you're doing. That bike is hard to beat in this class. It could only be beat by the Cafe Racer if you wanted the look specifically, and it could only be beat by the Desert Sled if you are ever going to do a little more off-roading. That's what I think, guys. That's my opinions. That's everything I've got. Hopefully this video gave you guys a good understanding of what these bikes are, who they belong to, and maybe if you should get a different one than the one you were thinking about. I would love to know what you guys thought about this video in the comments down below. Do you agree with everything I said? If you don't, that's totally fine, dude. Everybody's got opinions. Drop those comments down below, and let's have a conversation about these scramblers. That's the beautiful thing about here on YouTube is, yeah, I'm making all the content. You know, my team and all are doing this stuff, but once these videos are out, it gives us an opportunity to have a conversation about this stuff in the comments. And I'm not going to lie, a lot of you guys out there know stuff I don't know. You know, you guys might have owned a Ducati Cafe Racer for a long time and know something that's a problem with them. Let us know down below, because that experience is going to help us all out. So let's all gain from all of our knowledge, and let's rise all the boats, my guys. All right, guys, I'm Chaseontwowheels. Make sure you guys like that video if you got this far in the video, and make sure to subscribe for more content like this on our beautiful world of two wheels. I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for getting to the end. Later. Outro crew, which one would you buy? Given the same situation, if I told you you can only have one of these 4 motorcycles, and that's the only thing you could ride, which one would you pick and why? Also, outro crew, make sure you guys are letting me know. Outro crew, then answer my question. You know, I love you guys just a little more than the rest of the guys. So let me know who you are so I can drop one of those little heart things that YouTube allows me to do. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Later.